Ever feel like you're just totally lost in the world of medical cannabis? Like, where do you even start?
Yeah, it can be super overwhelming for sure.
Well, that's what today's deep dive is all about. We're checking out the Doctor-Approved Cannabis Handbook by Dr. Benjamin Caplan.
Oh, I like this book. It's great because it's not just for total beginners, you know?
Right.
It's really for anyone who wants to use cannabis for health and wellness, but doesn't know where to begin.
And the best part is, it's written in such a clear, easy to understand way.
Totally. It's like Dr. Kaplan just wants everyone to feel empowered to take control of their health.
Exactly. It doesn't feel like a boring textbook or anything.
Not at all. It's more like you're having a conversation with a friend, a really smart friend who knows a lot about cannabis.
Yes. And speaking of being easy to understand, he includes all these helpful charts and tables throughout the book.
Oh, yeah, those are super useful, even for someone like me who's been using cannabis for a while.
Exactly. Whether you need a quick dosage reminder or you're trying to figure out which consumption method is best for you, it's all right there at your fingertips.
It's like he anticipated all the questions you might have and then answered them in a clear and concise way.
Totally. And I love how he doesn't shy away from debunking some of those old myths about cannabis.
Like the one about it making you lazy.
Yes.
Ugh, that one drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It's just not true for everyone. In fact, some people find that cannabis actually helps them focus and be more creative.
Right. And he explains all that by breaking down how cannabis interacts with our body's endocannabinoid system.
Which is so important to understand.
I know. Before reading this book, I had no idea how much our endocannabinoid system affects, well, basically everything.
It really does. Mood, sleep, pain perception. You name it, the endocannabinoid system is involved.
It's like he's letting you in on this secret handshake with your own body.
Exactly. And because everyone's system is different, he really emphasizes finding what works best for you. He wants you to feel comfortable talking to your doctor about cannabis.
And not just feeling comfortable talking to your doctor, but feeling empowered to advocate for your own health,
Absolutely. He wants you to be an active participant in your healing journey.
which is so important. And that's something I really appreciate about this book. It's not about blindly following instructions. It's about giving you the knowledge and tools to make informed decisions about your own health.
And that's something he emphasizes throughout the book, the importance of a personalized approach.
Right. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. He really wants you to find your own sweet spot.
Exactly. And he gives you all the information you need to do that. He talks about different consumption methods, dosage, potential side effects.
It's incredibly thorough. I mean, he even dedicates a whole section to helping you understand the different ways to use cannabis, like edibles versus topicals, tinctures,
Oh, and vaping versus smoking. He goes there too.
which is great because there's so much confusion around all that.
Absolutely. And it can be kind of intimidating trying to figure it all out on your own.
Totally. You know, when I first started exploring cannabis, I wish I had this book. It would have saved me so much time and confusion.
Me too. It really is like having a cannabis expert on call 247.
Exactly.
And he explains it all in a way that's easy to understand. You don't need a medical degree to get what he's saying.
Right, like even with something as complex as figuring out the right dosage for you.
Exactly. He breaks it down into manageable steps.
He does, which I really appreciate. It's not just a bunch of vague advice.
No, not at all. He gives you specific guidelines and things to look out for.
Exactly. Like he even talks about how to adjust your dosage based on your individual needs and how your body responds.
Which is so important. Everyone reacts to cannabis differently.
Yeah, what works for one person might not work for another.
Right. And finding that sweet spot can take some experimentation.
It can, but having a resource like this book can make that process so much smoother and safer.
Absolutely. It's like having a roadmap for your cannabis journey.
I love that analogy because it really is a journey, isn't it?
It is. And like any journey, it's helpful to have a guide.
Especially a guide who's been there and done that.
Exactly. And Dr. Kaplan has so much experience treating patients with cannabis.
He does, and it shows in his writing. He's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk.
Exactly. And that gives his words so much more weight.
It does. And speaking of weight, I was really impressed by the sheer volume of information he covers in this book.
Me too. It's incredibly comprehensive.
It is, like he covers everything from the history of cannabis to the latest scientific research.
Oh, and don't forget about all the different conditions that cannabis can potentially help with.
Right? He talks about everything from chronic pain and insomnia to anxiety and depression.
Even more serious conditions like arthritis, multiple sclerosis, and even cancer.
It's amazing how much ground he covers.
It is, but he manages to do it in a way that's still accessible and engaging.
I know. It's not often you find a book that's both informative and enjoyable to read.
I know, and it's not dry or boring at all.
Not at all. It's actually quite funny in parts.
Yeah, he has a really great sense of humor.
He does.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what makes this book so approachable.
Definitely. It doesn't feel intimidating or preachy.
Not at all. It's more like having a conversation with a friend who just happens to be a cannabis expert.
Exactly. And that's a really refreshing change of pace.
It is, especially in a world where there's still so much stigma and misinformation surrounding cannabis.
Yeah, this book feels like a breath of fresh air.
It does. It's like he's shining a light on the truth about cannabis.
Exactly. And he's doing it in a way that's both informative and empowering.
I love that. It's not about fear-mongering or making people feel bad for wanting to explore cannabis as a wellness option.
No, not at all. It's about giving people the knowledge and tools they need to make informed decisions about their own health.
And to do it safely and responsibly.
Exactly. And that's so important.
It is, especially for people who are new to cannabis.
Right. They need accurate information from a trusted source.
And that's exactly what this book provides.
It does. It's like having a personal cannabis coach in your back pocket.
And you know what else I really appreciate about this book?
Yeah.
It's not just about the physical benefits of cannabis.
Oh, totally. He talks a lot about the emotional and spiritual side of things too, right?
Exactly. He even talks about how cannabis can be a tool for personal growth and exploration.
It's like he sees cannabis as this plant that can help us connect with ourselves on a deeper level.
Yeah, and with the world around us.
Exactly. And I think that's something that often gets overlooked in these conversations about cannabis.
Totally. It's not always just about managing symptoms or treating specific conditions.
Right. It can also be about enhancing our lives and expanding our consciousness.
And Dr. Caplan really captures that beautifully in this book.
He does. It's clear that he's not just a doctor. He's also a deep thinker who's really wrestled with these big questions.
And he's not afraid to share his insights with the world.
Which is amazing. He's helping to break down the stigma and open up this whole new way of thinking about cannabis.
I know, right? It's not just this scary drug that people should be afraid of.
It's a plant with so much potential to heal and to help us grow.
And I think that's a really important message, especially right now.
Totally. With so much misinformation out there, it's more important than ever to have access to accurate and evidence-based information about cannabis.
And that's exactly what this book provides. It's like a beacon of light in the darkness.
I love that. A beacon of light. That's a perfect way to describe it.
So for anyone listening who's been curious about exploring cannabis as a wellness tool, I highly recommend checking out the Doctor-Approved Cannabis Handbook.
I second that. It's a must-read for anyone who's serious about taking control of their health and well-being.
Couldn't agree more. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today.
Likewise. Until next time.